Hi, I'm John Martin. Originally from Buffalo, New York, but I lived on the Six Nations Indian Reservation in Ohsweken, Ontario. My grandparents raised me. My mother was never married, and I never met my father, but he was from the same reservation. So we lived in Buffalo till my grandfather died, and then me and my grandmother couldn't afford to live in Buffalo, so we owned our own house on the reservation, so that's why we moved to the res. Well, it was a big shock to the system, leaving Buffalo with sidewalks and street lights and running water to move up the reservation with gravel roads, no sidewalks, and no running water.
When was this? What years?
In the 60s,
In the 60s.
early 60s. And don't forget, that meant no indoor plumbing.
Right. So you had to be pretty cold in the winter.
Absolutely. You timed it where you did your business in school. I grew up there and I quit high school when I was 15, went into the horse business. My whole family was in it. My grandfather had me on the racetrack at Buffalo Raceway when I was 5 years old, dragging a muck basket to the manure bin, just shoveling shit. That's where you start, with that pitchfork in hand. Well, I wasn't big enough to lift a muck basket, so I drag it to the shit bin, dump it, and this one day I said to him, I said, how much I get paid for this? He said, you sit at that dinner table 3 times a day, don't you? Well, my reservation, you were judged by how much you could drink and how good you could fight, not by how smart you were and how much money you had. It was a tough. Well, there wasn't much up there, especially nothing for the kids to do. So we partied and raised hell. See, in Buffalo, I was raised on the west side of Buffalo. It was mostly Italian, but there was some Puerto Rican kids and some black kids, and nobody ever knew. Kids were kids. We played with everybody. Nobody really knew what race was. So it was a shock to the system to move to the reservation up in Canada, where you got 12 miles of about 6,000 Indians, to they would educate us to grade 8 on the res, and then we'd have to go to a choice of 4 high schools around the reservation. Then you had all, the white kids who had to go to school with the white kids. And you had to hear what kind of dog meat we're eating for supper and
insults.
Yeah. So like I said, but having such a rough environment on the reservation, like there was 2 Indian bars in Buffalo.
Right.
And us guys come from Six Nations Reservation. There'd be guys from Cattaraugus Reservation in Irving, Tonawanda Reservation, Seneca Reservation, Tonawanda, and everybody just didn't mingle, fought. So one day I was getting sick of the fighting, because I never really got to be a big guy till I got older. When I was 16, I was a skinny little kid. So that's probably when I first started sitting in the bars. So one day I said, you know what, I'm getting sick of this fighting shit. I'm going up the street and have a few beers at a quiet bar. So I go up Allen Street, a couple blocks, and walk in the bar, and I had a white shirt on, and I had my money stuffed in my pocket. So I see the guy coming out from behind the bar and a woman going back behind it. Guess they're changing shifts. She said to me, what would you like? I said, can I get a bottle of Budweiser, please? So the guy sits next to me and he said, when we start serving his kind in here. So I pretend like I didn't hear him. And she got a little mad. She says, he's not bothering nobody, leave him alone. So pretty soon he elbows me right in the ribs. He says, hey, red nigger, in case you don't know who I'm talking to you. Why don't you go back down to Foot Allen Street, rest of your red trash. So I never said a word. Poured my beer. It was a more long gooseneck bottles back then. Poured my beer, put my change in my pocket, and when I went down like I was going to grab the bottle to pour some more, I grabbed it this way and I wrapped him right across the eyes and run like hell for the door. I looked back and he had his hands up over his face like this, and the blood was just coming through his fingers. I said, I really didn't give a shit if I cut his eyes out. Guarantee you don't call another Indian red nigger.
Right. Wow. Pretty intense.
So then I went back down to Foot Allen Street with the rest of my red trash, and I bet you it wasn't 10, 15 minutes, there was 20 cop cars out front. Now, if it had been vice versa, if that had been an Indian that got cut, nothing would have ever been done. But now, so they snuck me out down to the basement, out the back door, and I was long gone.
So this is 1967.
Yeah, that's the year I quit school.
Yeah.
And
Well, my birthday's November, so I really quit school when I was 15 in September. I jumped the bus to Monticello, New York, to the racetrack.
How did you avoid the Vietnam War? Is it
Well-
because you were in Canada?
No, there's a funny story to that. See, we don't have to claim citizenship. we're technically citizens of North America. And at 21, I had a choice of being an American citizen or a Canadian citizen. Even though I was born in Buffalo, my reservation's in Canada. So I have dual citizenship. I can cross that border 100 times a day, and nobody can stop me. And I was working on Buffalo Raceway, turned 18, and here come the draft boards, federal agents of some sort, and asked me my name, and I told them. They said, "You were born in Buffalo, New York, 1951." I said, "Yep." And they said, "You never signed up for the draft." And I said, "I'm not going to either." And they said, "Well, by law, you have to." And I said, "I can't be your president. You got to be a citizen to be your president, and I can't be your president, so why should I go fight your war?" I said, "Never been scared of a good fight in my life, but ain't nobody shooting me from 1,000 feet away and blowing my brains out."
On the other side of the world.
Yeah, and so we're going to check into this. And like I said, I knew they took other Indian kids from Buffalo, but nobody ever come back to me. Nobody ever said a word. So I was going through Arizona.
You were going through Arizona.
In 1970, I was working in Vernon, New York, and the racetrack had opened back up, and my cousin were basically about the same age. I told him, "Let's go to California and see what it looks like out there." There's a big racetrack out there. Matter of fact, that new stadium, what's it called? SoFi now, or where they played the Super Bowl? That's where Hollywood Racetrack used to be. They tore it down and built that stadium. So I said, "Let's go out to Hollywood Park and see what it's like out there." So on the way out, we were driving all night, and we're going through Arizona. And at that time, I-40 wasn't done yet. It was still old Route 66, then I-40, then 66. So we're on 66 and stopped this little town. And back then, they used to give you a nice hot shave after a haircut. So I said to Jeff, "Let's stop and get a haircut and freshen up a little bit." He said, "All right." So we go into the barber shop, and the guy cuts my hair, and he turns me around. Now he's starting to sharpen up strop the old straight razor. He turns me around, there's a sign sitting on his mirror that says, "We will not cut an Indian's hair. We'll do what you've done to us." Because don't forget, Arizona and New Mexico, Navajo reservations. I mean, there's lots and lots of Indians out there. So he said, "We will not cut an Indian's hair. We'll do what you done to us." I'm sitting there figuring, how the hell can I get out of this chair?
Oh, shit.
And without, and see, I used to get picked out of home for being so fair complected. And I said, that's one time I'm sure glad I was fair complected because he never caught on.
Yeah.
And then when I got a chair, I said to my cousin Jeff, "Okay, it's your turn." Jeff, he says, "Not sorry, I can wait till we get to California." Come out of a bar in Vernon, and there was a waitress there. Her name was Eva Wheeler. And Eva was a player. And we had fooled around some. And I don't know if she didn't realize it was me or not, but I was following her home. She lived in Munnsville, and to get from Vernon to Munnsville, it's all windy roads and hilly roads. So she's gunned her pretty good. I said, "Well, I can catch her." I had a big Buick 441, a 72 Riviera. And you step on the gas, that front end just rolls up like that. And I punched that thing, and I come flying around the bend, and guess what? There was no more road.
Oh, no.
Kept on going, chopped the telephone pole off, went through the cornfield, slid sideways into the farmer's car, and I got pitched right out my passenger window. Went over the console and out the passenger window. And when the troopers got there, he said, "Well, you know how lucky you are, dummy?" So why is that? Because there was a gasoline drum sandwiched between the two vehicles. And so he takes me, and now when I chopped the telephone pole down, there was a car coming down the road there. Now they're caught in the wires, all laying on the road. So he puts me in the back seat of his car. He says, "I gotta go help these people." He don't want nobody to get electrocuted. So I think I was over 2 when they took my breathalyzer in Oneida. So I'm sitting in the back seat, and his radio comes on, and so I said, "Well, I'm going to get me some brownie points here. I'm going to let him know he's got a phone call." I went to reach up and touch the horn. I didn't know the hook of the siren went, "Rrr!" He jumped up, and his hat hit one of the wires, knocked his hat off. He come back, was he ever mad? He said, "If you touch one more thing in this car, I'm handcuffing you to the bumper."
Oh. How old were you when that
That one was second term for Paul Battis. That would be 1970. 75, 76. 76 or 76. So, born in 51, 25 maybe.
Yeah.
Very good friend of mine, who's in the horse business, quite prominent in the horse business. Howard Taylor, he's a big shot lawyer in Philadelphia. So I was on about my third DWI, and in Pennsylvania and New Jersey take it pretty serious. I was racing in the two states. So I was probably looking, as my third or fourth DWI, I was probably looking at doing some time. So he got me into what was called the Livingren Foundation. And you actually, they just don't take you and say, we're going to rehab you and your DWI goes away. You had to take what's known as the Mortimer-Filkins test. So it's a test they set up. You answer, because I got done, I said, what was to stop me from telling you what you want to hear just to get accepted to this program? He said, well, number one, he said, I'm a reformed alcoholic. And I've been giving this test for 25 years. He said, so I've asked you the same question upside down, sideways, backwards. He said, we know when somebody's lying. Mm-hmm. So I thought I aced the thing. I said, well, geez, I was being honest because I really wanted to, maybe quit drinking. So being in the horse business, I was racing at Liberty Bell Park in Philadelphia. They closed down for good. So I moved the stable to Pocono Downs in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. From there, I went to Vernon, New York, central New York. From there, I went to Pompano Park in Florida. So the next year, I come back from New Jersey, go get my license in Jersey, and there's a warrant out for my arrest in Pennsylvania. It was because I was supposed to take 12 weeks of that program. Well, with the stable being on the road, and now I'm in Florida, I'm 1,000 miles from the Livingren Foundation. I'm going to do the program every week. So I had done 4 or 5, so in my mind, that was enough. Well, I was in Pennsylvania, didn't see it that way. And went to court in Doylestown, and they said they could throw the book at you for this. Like they did you a favor. They put you on it's basically like a probation parole type deal, and you just shit in their face. So I said, how do I get out of this? So I went back to Livingren, and they had started a new system. Because now I'm racing back at Garden State, which was right across the river from Philly. So I went and talked to them. They had a new program. You took 6 weekends, 6 Saturdays. It was considered a double type deal. So that was your 12 weeks. So I paid them the money to get back in it. I went to court in Doylestown. I told them, I said, look it, I got back in this program and all that. So she pulls out my file. There's Philadelphia, Wilkes-Barre, Vernon, Pompano Park. She says, you don't have no intentions to ever finish the program. I said, I do. I'm telling you. I'm in a situation now. I'm at Garden State for the rest of the fall. I said, I'm in a position where I can finish them. She said, well, I'll go ahead and extend this for a couple months. She said, if you don't finish the program this time, she said, next time you come to see us, bring your toothbrush because you're staying for a while.
Oh, boy.
She was pretty cool.
Yeah. She gave you...
So I went and finished the program. I went there with an open mind, and alcohol was never meant to be poured in the human body. There's no medicinal purposes, no nutritional value.
Right.
And everybody thinks it makes you feel so good. It's a depressant.
Right. Oh, yeah. Makes you act the fool.
And plus, we just had the baby, my youngest daughter, and it seems like when you're drinking, you always had money to go out and get drunk, but if you need something for the family, oh, well, we can't afford that right now.
Right.
So, my youngest daughter's never seen me take a drink. And, I was going to tell you about the Mortimer-Filkins. When I got to Vernon, they accidentally sent me the results of the test. Because every time I went to a new town, I was supposed to get into another program. And instead of sending them to the people who run the program, they sent it to me. And the test I thought I aced, they didn't see it that way.
No.
How did they find analysis? Severe alcohol addiction with severe detrimental health to his mental well-being or something like that. Cut me up pretty good.
Yeah.
And I thought I was being all honest about it.
They showed you the mirror you didn't want to see.
Yeah, so I'm a compulsive alcoholic, not a chronic.
Yeah.
What I would do, I could go 2 or 3 days without a drink, but when I did, I'd go on 2 3 day binges. I'd just drink myself till I was sick and then sober up for a few days, and then when I got healthy, do it all over again.
Do it again. That's coffee in his mug there, everybody. Mm-hmm.
I tell you, I was second training for a fellow in Saratoga, New York. His name was George Forshey. We had a 36 horse stable. So that means we had 18 grooms. And there was an Indian boy worked for the racetrack itself, not as a horseman. He worked for maintenance. So he got talking to me. I'm Mohawk from Six Nations. He's Mohawk from Cognawaga. That's up by Montreal. So we got talking and all that. So one Friday, when you used to feed the horses at night, and eating at 4 o'clock, you sat there till the horses were done eating. Then you pull their feed tub up, clean it up, and set the breakfast out for morning. So if they got playing around at night, they didn't get hung up in the feed tub. So everybody's sitting around waiting for their horses to get done eating to pull the tubs. And it's Friday, so he's done for the week because he didn't work weekends. He walks in and he said, "What are you doing tonight?" I just got 5 or 6 horses to race. "What are you doing tomorrow?" He says, "Got to jog and train in the morning and got 5 or 6 to race tomorrow night." I said, "Why, what's up?" He says, "Well, I thought we'd go out and suck up a feudal Monday." And, because don't forget, he's Indian too. So he walked out of the barn, all these white kids, "Holy shit, did he say suck up a feudal Monday?" Yeah, she told me that was no big deal. We went out in high school. We went out Friday nights. Never come home to Monday morning. Just wake up at somebody's place, stretch out the little cigarette butts, and open up a warm beer and go at her again. It was just a way of life. Then you went in the horse business, and that's what the horse business was all about. You took care of your horse in the morning. In the afternoon, you went down to the local restaurant, bar, and had your lunch and sat there and played pool and drank all day. Race horses at night, and then back out after you got done racing horses. So, well, that's what the guy told me at Livinggreen. He said, "You've been raised on an Indian reservation and going in the horse business at 15. He says, "You never had a shot."
You were doomed.
So I was walking to go home to my room one day, and this one is in his barn putting his favorite horse away, just messing around, cleaning him up and stuff. And as I'm walking by, he yelled out, "Hey," or whatever, and I stopped to say hi and visit. And I'll let him give you the rest of that story as I walk away, as far as his thoughts, what his thoughts were for us to end up married.
Well, was that the day I hired you?
No. Today we talked about it. You hadn't hired me yet, but we talked about it.
An employee.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you say, honey? It's okay. You can tell him.
Yeah, but now the whole world's going to know that I tricked you into going back to my room.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that you stated that day. I was looking for that picture, but
Yeah, you can text it to me and I'll put it in
I'll do that
and
for
I'll
you.
put it in the
Because he wants you guys to see that picture.
in the
He,
in the editing of this, I'll trim
Right.
it up so that it
Right.
flows a little bit.
Beautiful.
Cool.
But this one says, he tells everybody, and he even says it to me today, he goes, "You just can't imagine." He goes, "You turned around to walk away, and I'm watching that little butt walk down the road going, I gotta have that."
Yeah. And you got it.
Yeah.
And he did. he did get it.
You had to hire.
Yeah, that he had to do. He had to hire me.
Had to put on payroll.
I worked and raised kids, and sometimes his drinking got a little bit in the way of it. Him not working all the time. And so one day I finally had enough. He come into work, and then we were talking that morning, and I said, "We're not racing tonight. You are taking me out. We're going out. We're doing something. I'm sick of being mom, worker, employee, whatever, wife, the whole 9 yards. I'm tired. I want a date." So he had promised me a date. And he left the barn early, as usual, and went off with one of his buddies, one of his Indian buddies from the track. And they went down to this bar called Mickey's. Well, when I got done work at the barn and went to leave, I went on my way home. Normally, I would just go home and say, "Yeah, heck with it. He'll call me later, or he'll be home, whatever." And he didn't take a vehicle because obviously I needed the vehicle, so he rode with his buddy. And I got down there, and I went to Murray's. He wasn't there. And we didn't have cell phones then either, by the way. Back then.
You just knew he was somewhere.
Well, I knew he was at one of the local bars. Right. So then I went to Mickey's, and there he sat with Tony.
Oh, we're at that place, that Irish pub. That little hole in the wall.
I thought it was Mickey's.
Oh, it's still on the same road, just further down.
Okay.
The left-hand side.
He was at the Irish pub. Whatever. It was at one of the little local bars, as usual, like I said. Him and Tony sat there, Tony Hill. And I went in, and I said, "Come on, let's go." And he goes, No, I'm hanging out with Tony. And they were supposed to be getting ready to leave there to go somewhere else. I said, "You're not going. You're going home with me. We're going to the races tonight. We're going home, get showered, get dressed. We're going out. You owe me a date. I'm getting my date." No. No, I gotta go hang out with Tony. I gotta go. No, his nickname was Gahus. He said Gahus can't be. You can't expect him to go out alone. I gotta go. Blah blah blah. No, you're going with me. I drug him out. We went home. We changed, showered, changed, got ready to go. Have the kids' mom and dad's. As we're driving back to the track to go to, we were gonna go upstairs for the clubhouse, have dinner, and watch the races. We where did we go that we got stopped? When we got there, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody stopped us and said, right as we walked into the track, said, you guys need to maybe go to the hospital right away. Well, what do you mean we need to go to the hospital? When Tony left the bar not long after behind us, he drove down the street and wrapped his van around a telephone pole.
You remember them old flat nose
This
vans?
guy would not be here
Where
today
the motor
if I
was almost
wasn't so
sitting on-
adamant.
Sitting almost underneath your seat. Well, the bar, you go down Andrews Avenue, and you got to make a sharp left, an S curve, to get to Lang Boulevard.
Mhm.
So Tony must have been booking her pretty good, and whether he just fell asleep or didn't notice it there, we kept on going. And Florida doesn't have the wooden poles; they have the big concrete poles, and he hit that thing, hit that whole undercarriage, motor and all, just crushed his legs. And like that, and he almost lost his legs, but knocking wood, the old boy's still going.
Yeah.
But it was pretty close. Now me, I would have been sitting here with no seatbelt on,
Yeah.
and when he hit that thing, you know where I would have went.
Through the windshield.
Yeah.
That was in Florida?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we raced at Pompano for 17 years.
We lived in Pompano we owned our own mobile home down there, 17 years.
So he was drinking while you guys were married, and then.
Oh yeah,
All the way
I
into-
there was
what year were you
in the
sober up?
beginning of our relationship.
You're blocking the light, please.
90, Jess was born in 92, so I must have quit drinking around 94.
No. We got married in 92. Jess was born November of 91. You quit drinking September of 92. September 6th, 1992. I can give you the full date when he quit drinking.
Because I got a diploma from the Living Room Foundation.
Well, it's not just that. It's the fact that he tells you the story about how he signed up for that program.
Mm-hmm.
You can't imagine what it was like. Like, I was so amazed. And I tell people all the time, like, they're like, well, you must have helped him or whatever. I said, no, I didn't help him. What do you mean I helped? He had to want to do it. 1,000,000% you have to want to do it on your own or you can't do it. He proved that to me. He quit smoking and drinking, by the way, on the same day, September 6, 1992.
I smoked a pack of cigarettes a day. If I was out drinking, I smoked 2 packs.
Yeah.
Took my last cigarette the same day. Cold turkey.
And that was September 6th, because September 7th is when he started this program. It was a Saturday. He had to go 4 Saturdays in a row all day. So it was, because I was being a mean wife, I would have to take him and drop him off because he wasn't allowed to drive because he was already in trouble with the drinking and driving thing. So I had to take him and drop him off and then go and do what I have to do all day. And so I used to say, I got to go take you to school. You got to go back to school.
Your younger brother come in, he was working for us in Pompano. And he come in the barn one day. Just a young guy, he's out partying. And he come in and said, oh man, I drank a lot last night. Wow, did I ever drink a lot last night? I said, boy, I spilt more than you ever drink.